Hi everyone, it's Kate Kalthoff. Welcome to a Stamping to Share video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate having you here. And guess what? 2 more days. Just 2 more days and celebration is going to be over. How can that be? It just seems impossible. Time just flew. But we are going to make one last card with a celebration set, and the card is going to use the stamp set that's called Lots of Lavender. This was one of the first stamp sets that I got when I was picking my celebration sets back in December, because as demonstrators we get to get them early. And I loved it, and I made a card with it, and I loved it so much that this is the card I actually created for Spring Fling that we held a few weeks ago. And it also uses a stamp set called Milestone Moments. And so we are going to make a retirement card today that looks like this. Isn't it gorgeous? I just love it, and I can't wait to share with you all the details on how to create this. So talk to you in just a bit. All right, so here we are. This is the card we're making, so I get to show you a nice close-up of it. And you can see that we have the sentiment from Milestone Moments that's stamped on Pear Pizzazz. We have this lovely cascade of flowers that you probably didn't even notice until right now, but that is our Petal Pear embossing folder, and I'm going to show you a little tip that you can use to make sure that you don't break through your paper fibers when you are embossing it. And then again, we have these cascading flowers here. Now they don't actually look like lavender. They look sort of like something you would find at a wedding where the flowers are cascading down. So I really love this card. And my daughter is getting married this summer, and she's going to be having a lot of greenery in her wedding. And so this kind of makes me think of what she has in mind. When you open it up, it's just blank except for the little cascade of flowers again at the top. So let's go ahead and recreate this card. So again, here are the 2 stamp sets that we're using, and we're going to start out with a card base that is called Tranquil Tide. So we have a Tranquil Tide card base. It's cut at 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. I'll just fold this in half along the score line here. Take our bone folder and press that down. Then let's go ahead and stamp our inside panel. So our inside panel is 4 by 5 1/4, and it's crumb cake. And we're going to go ahead and use a Stampin' Map because all of these stamps are photopolymer, so you'll get a much better image if you're using a Stampin' Mat. I'm going to take Tuxedo Black ink, which is our Memento ink, and we'll ink this bouquet up. And then we're going to stamp it upside down because we want this to look like a cascade of flowers coming from the top. So we'll just set this here about like that. Give it a nice little press. And then we're going to take Lemon Lime Twist. And there's kind of a shadow stamp in this set. And you can just hoover that over. Give that a nice press. And then instant coloring. So now we have all of these flowers colored in just like that. So then we're going to take the Tranquil Tide, so switch out these pads, and we've got a couple of stems that we're going to stamp, or not stems, leaves that we're going to stamp in Tranquil Tide. That gives us a little bit more color, adds a little bit more interest when you look at it, so it's not all just one color. There we go. And then there's 2 little dots. I'm not really sure what these are for, but I think they look really cool, just sort of scattered about in our little spray of flowers here. So that's what it looks like. That's all you have to do, and this is now done. So I'm going to take some multi-purpose liquid glue to the top of this panel, and then we'll just set this right here inside of our card. So we'll set this in, wiggle it into place. And that is done. Now let's work on the outside panel. So for the outside panel, we're doing pretty much the same card base that we used on the inside panel. So it's crumb cake, and it's 4 by 5 1/4, just like our inside panel, except we're going to take the Petal Pear embossing folder and run this through the Big Shot machine. And when you take it off, you get this beautiful looking flower cascade, and that is gorgeous. So let me bring that up to the camera so you can see how beautiful that is. And it actually comes as a pair. It's called Petal Pear, so you'll get 2 of them. You'll get one that has kind of a cascade of flowers, and then you'll have another one that's sort of like all of these little vines So it's beautiful. I love these two embossing folders. And I did mention that when I first started using it, I had a little bit of breakthrough. It seemed like the embossing folder was a little intense, and so some of the fibers were breaking through and I was having trouble. So then to fix that problem, all you have to do is take a piece of our cardstock vellum, cut it to the size of your embossing folder, and just snail it down, which is what I did, and then you leave it on there. And I've used this for hundreds of embossings, and as you can see, it's a little cracked and rough looking, but it works great. And you will get these great images when you do that. And so now what we're going to do is do a ribbon wrap. We're going to use our 1/8 inch gold metallic ribbon. We're going to wrap this around 3 times. So I'm just going to secure this with a little bit of Scotch tape in the back. And then we're just going to wrap it 3 times around. We want a little bit of interest here on the front of our card. And that looks pretty good. So we'll just go back here now. Add another piece of Scotch tape just to secure that, and then we'll trim that off. All right, so let's see what this looks like. You've still got a little chance to move it around if you want to, and I think that looks pretty good. So we can go ahead and put this on the front of our card. So to do that, again, we're going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue, and we'll just put a border all the way around, and then we can just set this right here on our card front. And that looks really good. You can kind of wiggle that into place with the glue. And then we can set that aside and we'll do some more stamping. So let me bring the card back into the picture. So we're going to need a piece of scrap paper right here to do our stamping on. And this is Pear Pizzazz. And then we also need to run a piece of this Pear Pizzazz through the Big Shot machine. So the Thinlit that we're using is called the Rose Garden Thinlits, and this is the panel as I set it up. So I have the magnetic platform, my cut plate, my Pear Pizzazz paper, and then this is the Rose Garden Thinlit that's just perfectly sized for a lot of different sentiments, and then of course my cut plate over the top. So we can just take this away, and this is what we're going to do our stamping on as far as our sentiment goes. And so again, I'm going to get my Stampin' mat into the picture, and we'll put this on here and then we'll stamp. So we are going to stamp with Tuxedo Black Memento ink, just like before. I'm going to ink up the happy, and you could do happy birthday, you could do happy anniversary. I just like to have a few retirement cards on hand. Oops, I oopsed it up. I pressed a little too hard. So let me flip that around and we'll try it again. One of the good things about paper is it has 2 sides. All right, so that looks good. Now we're going to take the retirement part. We'll ink that up, and then we'll set this in right underneath. Give that a little press, and there it is. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add this to our card with a couple of dimensionals. All right, as you can see, I've added 4 dimensionals to this, and I'm just going to set this right here, right over the top of that gold ribbon. And that looks good. Now let's work on this cascade of flowers. So to do that, we need our scrap paper, which I have right here. We're going to need our Stampin' mat, which is right here. And we are going to take our Tuxedo Black Memento ink. We're going to ink this flower up. Then we're going to set it right here and give that a little press. And then we're going to make another one right next to it. And press that down. Perfect. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did to the inside panel of our card. We're going to do that shadow, which is going to put all that color over those flowers. And we're doing that in Lemon Lime Twist. And then of course we're going to bring in the Tranquil Tide and do our leaves. So we'll ink up the leaves here. And we'll ink up the leaves here, and then we'll also do the little twosomes, which are right here and right here. Perfect. And then we have these tiny little dots, which again, I'm not really sure what they're for, but it looks kind of fun when you add them in. So there we go. So this is what it looks like. And then you just have to hand cut that. Now I won't bore you by hand cutting on camera because I did that in advance. And this is what the little pieces look like. So you don't have to be perfect cutting it out, and it won't take very long once you do it, but I just thought I'd save that time on the video. So then on one of these, you're going to put dimensionals. So we're just gonna set this here so we get an idea of about where that's going to go. And then we're gonna put glue on the other one. And that other one is going to go right here. And just glue that in. And then you're gonna put your dimensional one right over the top of it. And it's beautiful. It looks like a cascade of flowers. You know what? We can add one more thing to this to really up the wow factor. And I've got some metallic enamel shapes here, and we're going to use these little circles. And we will just add a couple of these to these little cascading floral pieces here. So I've added 2 at the top, and then we'll just add 1 here at the bottom. And look at that. Wow, that just makes it look so awesome. It just really ups the wow factor. So here's the one I just did. Here's the one I did in advance. So again, thank you so much for being a part of my Stamping to Share community. I truly appreciate you. And if you'd like to place an order, be sure you do it on or before March 31st, because that is the day that celebration ends. And if you'd like to get the Lots of Lavender stamp set, that's your deadline. So place a $50 increment on your order and you will be able to select it. I'll have all of the products listed for you. Have a great day, and again, I truly appreciate you. Bye-bye.